It's okay. Go for it. Hello and welcome to Panel Chewing Pick of the Week, episode 82. I'm here this week with Jarrod. Mike unfortunately wouldn't be able to join us, but Jarrod, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks, Steve.
Quite a few books to go through this week. And we are also going to be touching on Giant Size X-Men after our picks. So anyone reading along, you can stick around and hear our thoughts on the Giant Size X-Men, Uncanny X-Men, Giant Size issue 1. And we were told by Jarrod that it is important to read that, even though it was written by Claremont. It does kind of set up the run for Claremont. For those who aren't aware, we are reading the Uncanny X-Men, starting with Giant Size X-Men 1, and we'll be reading for a little bit for the Chris Claremont run. It is available on Hoopla and some other free apps. So if you'd like to read along with us, it is free to read. Just check either Hoopla or Libby, and you can read it for free and follow along with us every week for the podcast. So,
yeah,
good stuff.
Or even if your local library has it,
yeah,
then check it out.
Yeah, check it out that way, and get it in its physical form. And the omnibus it was I think 800 pages when I looked it up on Amazon. So it's a thick boy.
Wow.
Yeah. But we'll get into all that and more. So I don't have a topic ready this week because Mike's usually the topic guy. But I did have a question for you, Jarrod. Do you prefer that books are on time or that they're ready to ship?
I mean, quantity over quality, maybe?
Yeah. So if it's a monthly title and the book is every month and a half because it's just not finished yet, would you rather be on time and not edited properly, not polished, or do you want it? Mm-hmm. Do you want to read it when it's ready?
Yeah. These days, I guess I've gotten more patient in my old age. I would prefer to wait and have a really nice, good product. If that is in fact what is delaying the production. When I was back in the day when I was working in the comic book store, books that were late were a big problem. They were a strain on the store owner because customers come in expecting these things, and it was disappointing for a customer to learn that their book didn't come in that week because a lot of customers would be glued to that diamond schedule that gets put out, and sometimes store owners would use that schedule. They would post it. They would say, hey, this is what's coming out this week. It's kind of like an advertisement just to get people in the store and what have you. And so it used to be really bad when books were late. I don't think that's much the case anymore, especially when unfortunately, a lot of stores have gone out of business due to the times and due to the switch to Amazon and other venues of getting comics and online and just the means the market for brick and mortar comic book stores just really took a different turn, and so these days I don't think it's as big a deal as it used to be.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think I'd rather have the book when it's ready and not before. And then I wondered, getting older, what did you think that we'd be less patient because we have less time? And when you're younger, you have more time. So you should be more patient when you're younger and less patient when you're older. That's kind of a weird.
Everything is opposite in life, I what did they say? Energy is wasted on the youth. Really?
Yeah.
It is. Kids bounce off the walls and they got nothing to do with their energy. And we have all these ideas and things we want to get done, and we got no energy. So,
yeah,
you know,
that's very true.
Life is opposite of what it should be, really.
Sad but true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's depressing stuff.
There's your topic of the week, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And for anyone listening, let us know what you prefer. You can use the link down below to send us a message, or you can join our forums and PM us directly, or join and just post publicly. So we'll go ahead and jump into it. I think I have 8 this week, and I think Jarrod, you have 4. So I'll try and make mine kind of fast. The first one on my list was one that I was excited about, which is Absolute Green Lantern #1. It's by Al Ewing. And so, I keep complaining about the Absolute universe not being different enough, that it should be, more Elseworldy. The Green Lantern, this series seems to be taking a different approach. It's so far anyway with this one issue. It's only one, but it's enough to keep me reading. There is a twist with the title of the first issue is The Black Hand. And I think that's going to be a reference to the other colors that we've been introduced to, like the other Lantern colors. At least I'm hoping it will be. A very different take on Green Lantern, as far as I'm aware, but very different. Very different. For anyone who's read it, I think, I don't want to spoil too much, but yeah, it's pretty different. And the art by Johanny Lindsay, I'm probably butchering the name, but I enjoy the artwork. It wasn't a perfect issue, but it was enough to keep me going. Different enough that I'll stay on, because I think, I see a lot now about superhero comics being kind of just like static. Nothing ever changes. So that's why I get so excited about the Elseworld stuff. There's a chance for some development, a chance to take some chances. So I'm hopeful. I think, it was better than I expected.
Well, hope reigns supreme, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I was never a Green Lantern fan. I don't know what it was. It was something about relying on colors that just didn't appeal to me. And
did you read the Johns run?
No, I didn't.
Rebirth? Oh, that's really good.
I never read those. Maybe I should readjust my thinking and check them out someday. But speaking of whether we want books on time or not, Dust to Dust #4 by J.G. Jones and Phil Brand is a creator-owned book that seems to be coming out quite regularly. And surprisingly enough, and I don't know if they planned for this far ahead in advance or not, but whatever they did, they're doing a great job. This was, I think, Steve, you read this last week, and it was, like you said, a nice slice of life little picture of this town that we've been getting to know slowly, bit by bit, and we got a little bit more here about that town and the characters within, and I really like that. I also like how the town is relating to the outside world as well. We have people coming into the town, and it's expected. The guys coming into town with some fireworks or what have you, and this isn't like this huge surprise or anything. This is something that people know about, and the reporter's from out of town too, and she's not like this weird oddity. They know that there's reporters that come from the city sometimes, and I really like how they're presenting the reality of these people's lives. This situation feels real. It feels natural. There's not like some of those small town stories in comics. The small town is really weird, and when somebody comes in from the outside, they look around. Either they're looking at the town really weirdly, or the town's looking at them really strangely. Whereas it just feels so much more natural, like an actual real place, and I appreciate that a lot. And there is something strange going on underneath the surface, but it's so subtle, and it really keeps you wondering, like, when is the shoe gonna drop? And they're just keeping the tension very, very nicely done. They're keeping me involved. They're keeping me interested, and the little stories of all the different people in this town. It's making a difference in me wanting to continue on with this series and enjoy it a lot.
Yeah, I really like that issue. I think it was really, like you said, it's slice of life, and really get to know the townspeople. And it, like you said, it feels like a real place, not just a
Yeah.
kind of an all ball. Because if that in that time period, I would imagine there's lots of little towns like this. So to have an outsider come in wouldn't be that unusual, and wouldn't be everyone here is strange. I think every town probably has its own little personality, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
The next one for me is Absolute Superman #6. This is still my favorite Absolute book, even as cool as Martian Manhunter was. And there's just small tweaks to Superman's backstory. There's enough to explain why he's feeling the way he does as we see him as he's older. For instance, not too big of a spoiler, but he's older. Well, we kind of see him on the escape pod as Krypton implodes. He's older and he's awake during his journey to Earth. Can you imagine being stuck on a ship traveling through space looking for a habitable planet for so long and not having anyone to talk to or anything to do? I really like that it kind of explains some of the anger issues that have been kind of hinted at in the first few issues. So yeah, I really like that, and we finally get a villain introduced. And I think I thought about this and kind of compared it to Absolute Batman. With Absolute Batman, we jump right into him kicking people and punching people in the face, and there's a villain set up pretty quickly. I think in the first issue there's a villain, so we have our big bad pretty quick. Whereas in Absolute Superman, we have some time to get to know him, get some backstory, get some history. And I think that for me anyway, I think I prefer that to set up the character, set up kind of where he's from and how he came to be where he is, instead of just throwing him into fighting people and punching people in the face. So I think that might be one of the reasons why I prefer Superman to Batman at this point. Still keeping my eye on Batman. I know it's a really popular book, but I just couldn't continue. But I'll keep my eye on it. But yeah, the developing the character slowly over the six issues has been a nice slow progression. So I'm really enjoying that.
Looking forward to it next week. And you would think that you wouldn't have to develop Superman.
Yeah.
But it's actually kind of cool that in this case they do have to, because they actually made him different instead of making him the same. So that's pretty cool.
I'm hoping it continues. I really don't want it to be just another Superman title. Really quickly, I'll sneak in another one that I read this week, which is Cruel Kingdom 4. So this is probably my least favorite Cruel Kingdom issue.
Oh, no.
The first story, which is Headmistress, is okay. There's a Cinderella retelling that is okay, I guess. Just kind of fell flat for me. The covers are still really good, but for the 3 stories we get in this one, just didn't quite scratch that itch. I mean, they weren't bad. It just wasn't kind of the level that I've been accustomed to with Cruel Kingdom.
Ominous.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Next up, I got The Missionary #1 from Distillery Comics. And once again, I'm very happy to read the review copies that we got and from Distillery. And so this was the next one I'm getting into. And so this was written by Ryan Stegman, by Jason Howard. And I think Jason Howard had done some previous stuff with Robert Kirkman on one of his Image titles there. And so I was familiar with Jason Howard's artwork. It's a bit on the cartoony side. He can have dark. There's a lot of dark inking going on, so he was trying to give it more of a dark tone, like he did with his Werewolf title. I think he did with with Kirkman before, but in this case, it's a story about demons trying to get a foothold on Earth or something like that, and beat up some angels and take over certain aspects of the celestial fight here in this pseudo Christian mythology that they're trying to expand upon in the story. I don't know. I found the story a little rushed, I think, and disjointed. I felt that some of it just didn't seem to take itself too seriously when it should have. There's some stories you don't want them to take themselves too seriously, and you want like a tongue in cheek, and you want a lighter tone. But there's some that I just needed a little more gravitas in order for me to really get into it. There were some, good points in the story which I found interesting. I liked the characters' kind of blasé attitude towards being possessed. I thought that was interesting and funny, but I still wanted a little more from that. And the I don't know. Some of the humor was okay, but it wasn't funny enough to be a comedy, but it wasn't dark enough to be a dark demon type drama type thing. And so it was kind of just trying to straddle that line between the two, and it didn't really work that well for me. I think there's an audience for this comic, definitely. I think a lot of people might like this. And I was torn myself about whether I should continue on or not, because it did have a banger of a cliffhanger. And I was just like, oh, okay. But, I just didn't enjoy the ride the whole way through. So I'm kind of like, I wanted to like it. I really did.
I had started this one, and it seemed a little spicy. The first few pages seemed a little missionary. I think it was missionary. It does seem a little, some touch of spice on it.
Yeah. There is some of that. Yep.
So you mentioned that there is an audience for this. Who would you recommend this to?
Jeez. If you like some of the more humorous sides of like Hellblazer, you might like this kind of story. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yep. If you were reading Hellblazer and thought it was too much of a downer and too much of a drag, then this might actually be the story for you. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. Strong recommendation.
Oh, I love Hellblazer, so that wasn't a drag for me, Hellblazer. But
no, yeah. It's a very kind of, it was one of the better runs.
Yeah.
So, it's a compliment. All right, the next one for me is I Was a Fashion School Serial Killer #1. That's a long title. It's basically a teen or young adult. I think she's probably early 20 something Dexter type of serial killer who is in fashion school. And so that's kind of the hook for it. The book went much more gory and violent than I was expecting. It does have some great dark humor in it. And it is, if you enjoyed if you've seen Dexter and enjoyed the internal narration that Dexter has with kind of hiding in plain sight, trying not to kill anyone, trying to control the urges, you'll probably like this. She spends most of the issue trying not to kill anyone and turning their flesh into clothes. So that's kind of the thing. It was okay. I mean, I think overall it was enjoyable. There's not a whole lot there just yet, other than just kind of the hook. But I have hopes for it. I think it'll turn out okay. It isn't afraid to kind of go out there and be a little bit more on the more gory side. So we'll see where it goes.
Cool.
And really quickly, I'll just mention Missing on the Moon number 4. This has been Mad Cave. This is the final issue. I thought the first 2 issues really set up some interesting things with kind of some politics and some kind of setting up the colony on the moon and how the colony works and the different kind of dynamics of the colony. And I think it had some great setup. Unfortunately, by the 3rd issue, we have a reveal that you can see coming a mile away. There was a pretty heartbreaking reveal in issue 4 that had been set up from the very beginning. We just hadn't seen it until now. But unfortunately, the rest of the issue just kind of fell flat for me. It felt very rushed, and it felt very quick. I think it would have really benefited from another issue or 2 just to kind of smooth things out and give it more time to kind of, to land. There's a lot of ideas at play that I just don't feel like we really followed through with a lot of them. So unfortunately, is a bummer for me. But more runway would have really helped the character and storylines on this one.
Who's this by? The company?
Mad Cave.
Oh, Mad Cave.
Yeah. Mad Cave's, kudos to Mad. I do this almost every week.
Yeah.
Kudos to Mad Cave for doing some really off the wall stuff. It doesn't always work for me, but I still appreciate the fact that they're telling different stories.
Yeah, and I feel the same way about the distillery as well. Yes, it's really
good. Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
That's cool. Next one I got is "We're Taking Everyone Down with Us," number 1 from Image. And this is written by Matthew Rosenberg with art by Stefano Landini. And I found this a well done book for the most part. I really like the pacing and the artwork. I like the use of panels in this book. And the only problem I had with it was I just didn't like the main character, the guy. He's a scientist of some sort. He says he's trying to save the world or what have you, and he's neglecting his daughter while he's doing that. And of course, his daughter gets in trouble, and trouble starts, and things happen. Events happen. I think, and I think the book's going in a different direction than what I may have thought when I was going through it, and because when you get to the end, you go, oh, okay, maybe it's going somewhere else. But I wish I could have felt a little more for the father in this case, because I have a feeling that it just by the title itself, it seems like it's going to be some kind of revenge book, and so I have a feeling that the daughter, that's what she's going to be doing, but. The way that her father kind of treated her, I don't know. I wasn't feeling it. I wasn't like, yeah, okay, let's go get revenge. And I was just kind of like, that's kind of sad, But maybe it'll get better. I might check out number 2 just to see what direction it takes, because I think the premise could be interesting, with some of the things that's set up. And I think, like I said, it was very well done. Like I think the artwork and the pacing of the book was actually pretty cool. So it was definitely a well done book. But we'll see. I might check out number 2 and just to see where it goes and see if it grabs my interest a little more than this one failed to do.
Is this Image or who's the publisher?
Image, yeah.
Image.
Then it says it's a Rook spy thriller, so I'm not sure what that means, but like an imprint or something.
But you'll check out issue 2?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna just try one more, see if it does it.
I think in number 1s that's kind of their main goal, is just to get you to come back for 2, just to kind of keep you reading. There's so much to read out there; it's hard to stand out.
Yeah, it's true.
Speaking of standing out, I think New Gods number 4. This is probably one of my more favorite DC books. It's up there with pretty Absolute Superman and Absolute Martian Manhunter. But Really engaging book. I just love the new Genesis stuff and the Mother Box stuff. I do feel like I don't know enough about the Mother Box kind of history with them and the new Genesis stuff that I feel like I'm missing out on some of the fun that people who are familiar with this stuff are having with it. I feel like I'm kind of there's a joke that I'm just not getting. But I'm enjoying that part of it a lot more than what's happening here on Earth with that set of characters. But yeah, I really enjoying it. Really enjoying the mythology and the kind of the gods, the big, the larger than life gods and the cosmic stuff that DC has. So really enjoying it. I think you know, it's like reading a history book sometimes. It's fun.
Yeah, I really like this series. It is my favorite DC series so far. So, um, or that's that I'm into, which isn't much, but but yeah,
Yeah, it's pretty
it,
sparse out there lately.
I'm really I'm happy. I'm actually happy that I'm reading a DC book that I'm really enjoying as much. Yeah,
There's not that many of them.
no. For my pick of the week, um, this took me by surprise. It is Solomon Kane, number one, by Patrick Zurcher. And Solomon Kane, it took me by surprise because Solomon Kane is not my favorite Robert E. Howard character.
Hmm.
I like a lot. I like all of them actually, and this guy was like the furthest one down on my totem pole as far as Robert E. Howard characters go. Um, but this is probably one of my favorite Solomon Kane stories, at least in comics that I've read. It was it was written and drawn by Patrick Zurcher, and he really he went full speed ahead with his artwork. It's fantastic. It's beautiful. And he told a really engaging story with multiple settings, multiple characters. I felt like I was really getting immersed into this new, almost epic fantasy type world, even though it takes place on Earth in 1600s or something like that, or 1500s. I forget. But it's during that time period, and we go from Africa to Italy and on the high seas, and it just he made the transitions seamless and fun, and the characters he introduced. Uh, Solomon Kane is the main character, of course, but he's kind of on the periphery in this issue. You get introduced to a lot of neat new characters here that we haven't ever run across before, and I really I want to know more about them. I really enjoyed meeting them. I really liked their just slight little subtle ties to the overarching story, and I can't wait to see how it all comes together and coalesces into a finale. Um, I don't know if this is a ongoing or if it's just a limited series, but um, I really am looking forward to more of this. And like I said, I was surprised because sometimes the Solomon Kane character kind of bores me a little bit with his strict Puritan views and stuff like that. But that was not the case in this book at all. It was fascinating read.
Oh wow. Would this be a good jumping on point for people who aren't familiar with?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
It's a number one, and it it's like Kane himself is portrayed as this mysterious adventurer in the background, so you don't really get to know much about him in this issue, and that's on purpose. It's meant to be that way. He's supposed to be this larger than life adventurer that that we'll probably know more about as the series goes on. But the fascinating part of this book was definitely all the different aspects of uh, of a story that seems to tie together in some manner the mystery was we're going to find out soon. So, yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely a good jumping on point. Yeah,
Oh, nice.
yeah. It's Titans Comics' first
Okay.
attempt at him, other than some minor stories in like the Savage Sword of Conan
Oh,
magazine.
okay.
Yeah.
Let's check that one out. So my pick this week is, I guess it shouldn't come as too much of a surprise, is Hyde Street Number 5 by Image. We have another visit to Glee Goodbody, a character that we were introduced to earlier in the series. And we get her backstory, how she ended up being a resident on Hyde Street, and kind of, how she ended up there and what her motivations are and kind of what she was up to before Hyde Street. We also get some more information on the dynamic on the residents of Hyde Street, how they work, and also for those of us who weren't entirely crystal clear on how it works on Hyde Street. There's a little bit more information of kind of how the system works, I guess you can say, on Hyde Street. Hyde Street is a place where the inhabitants have to collect souls, and they all end up there in different ways. And it's just we have a different artist. It's Francis Portela, and it's I mean, Ivan Rice is usually the one who does the artwork. Fantastic artwork, but I think Portela does a great job of the. I didn't really even notice there was a different artist. I mean, you notice, but I think it's based in the 80s, kind of the decadent setting of the 80s, the time period. I think it all captures it very well. And Geoff Johns is a master at writing comics. I don't see him mentioned very often with kind of the masters, like the best of lists, but and maybe I'm looking in the wrong places of best of writers, but I think he absolutely should be on that list, especially after we mentioned Rebirth, the Green Lantern stuff, Darkest Night, Brightest Day, all that stuff. So yeah, just it's a well done, fun book. I mean, had a great time with it. So Hyde Street Number 5.
Cool. Yeah. I really like Johns' run on JSA. This is about 15 years ago or so or whatever, but no.
I think Rebirth is probably about that old. I think Darkest Night was probably pre-New 52, so that was probably what, 20
years.
Jeez. Yeah. 20 a long time ago. I don't want to think about it. It's been a while.
Awesome.
Yeah. So those of you still hanging out with us, we will get into Giant Size X-Men, Giant Size Uncanny X-Men number 1. What was your takeaway reading this one again after all these years?
Yeah, what a nostalgic trip.
Yeah.
When I first read this, it was actually in the reprint of classic X-Men series. So it actually is only called Giant Size X-Men number 1, even though it's in the Uncanny X-Men Masterworks collection.
Oh, okay, so I'm not wrong. Okay, I feel better.
So you're not wrong, yeah. And but the X-Men series, the Uncanny X-Men series, had been on hiatus for quite a while, because it did not have any numbers, it didn't have any sales at all, and it when Jack Kirby and Stan Lee started it in the 60s, it ran for 93 issues and then stopped. And I think some of those issues were actually partially reprint issues of earlier issues as well.
Oh, wow.
So then it stopped, and then Len Wein, I don't know how to say his last name, but he was an editor at Marvel, and he's a writer, and he wanted to start up the X-Men again. And he, I think he had tapped this new young writer called Chris Claremont to take him on, and this hot new artist, Dave Cockrum. And for some odd reason, Claremont couldn't quite do the first issue, do the introductory issue yet, and so Len Wein actually ended up writing it, and he ended up plotting out issues in the future, as we'll see as we go along. But Claremont does take on the writing reins for Uncanny X-Men number 95, I believe, or 94, whichever one we get into. And so he did this one, and the thing that really stood out to me as this piece of nostalgia and this issue was how compact the storytelling is. How quickly stuff just jumps from one thing to the next to the next to the next. He doesn't like mess around. There's no time for big splash pages. Like this is not a comic that you just flip through and read in 3 seconds.
Yeah.
And so that's what really stood out to me. But it was all important stuff, information that he was throwing at us, because it was just an introductory issue to all these characters. Like, here they are. Here's the new ones. And they're going to rescue the old ones, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know what you thought about the whole...
Well, I think, like you mentioned, just a nostalgia bomb. I think Cochrane's art is just, I mean, I think that's probably where I get my preference for artwork, with the really bold lines and really clean everything. It's a very kind of I don't want remember like old school tattoos. That's very very clean, bold lines, very colors, very packed in. And I really just the artwork just felt at home again.
Oh, well, yeah.
Reading this one. Probably my second observation was Cyclops is an asshole. he's worse than I remember.
Yeah.
But I did think it was interesting the panels and the layout. There's a few that have arrows kind of pointing you which way to read.
Yeah.
Like what panel to go to next. And like you mentioned, I think there's not a whole lot of nuance. It kind of moves along very quickly. There's a lot of text, and it almost doesn't leave much open for interpretation. That we do get some explanation of this is what's happening, this is what the character's trying to do, this is what the character's doing. So it does kind of it kind of guides you along. There's not a lot. It's really hard to be confused after reading this one of kind of what exactly happened.
Yeah, that's true. And yeah, it's very, like you said, it's very straightforward. And they're not trying to fool us in any manner whatsoever, but they are giving us some things to think about. The very first page, I think, really spells out the theme and direction of the series. That these are characters, they're mutants, they're not going to be liked by society, but they're here to help society. They, and the first character we meet is Nightcrawler, and that page really gave me some Frankenstein vibes.
Yeah.
And I was just like, wow, that's Frankenstein, and and I really liked that because but that, like, he jam-packed that theme into that first page, which it's prevalent throughout Claremont's whole run. That theme, they hate us, but we're gonna help them anyways, and I really like how he did that. Like that takes a lot. Like some people would stretch that out for 25 pages, and that'd be the end of issue 1.
Yeah. 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 I mean, each panel could have been a page for some.
Yeah, exactly. So it was very economical writing. Like he just very quickly told you everything you need to know about where the direction of the book's going and about that particular character. And then like the next one was on page 2, it's Logan, and we get his spiel, and his attitude, and we get a little reference, the little little editor's notes they have back then, the little reference to his first
Incredible
appearance
Hulk. Yeah.
in the Hulk. And So that was a throwback too. You don't really see much of that anymore
Yeah, that's true.
in these books. Um, and then in on page 3, you got the reference to the government meddling in Logan's past,
Yeah,
which, like right there, that is a springboard for future Logan stories. That is a complete, like, think about Weapon X,
yeah.
15 years later that series came out,
Jeez.
or even more. It might have been 20 years later.
Yeah, it was a while later.
But that's a springboard right there, So here he is doing his best editor duties as a writer to give you a whole bunch of story ideas for people to latch onto in this particular issue and use later on down the line. And I really appreciated that, actually.
Very subtle, but yeah, lots of kind of lots of setup. But yeah, I think what you said about it's economical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Very tight, very straight. I don't want to say straightforward. It's not. I don't mean that in a bad way, but it's very. It's it moves along. There's not a whole lot of relaxing going on.
Yeah, he doesn't waste any time.
Right.
It gives you a lot of information without wasting your time. I
Yeah.
think it's very clever. And like the next 2 pages were about Aurora, and
Yeah.
it points out how she's living this fantasy as a goddess.
Yeah. Yeah.
And um, and it just made me think, like, who is this guy, Xavier, to come in and ruin this fantasy for her? Like, who is this guy who's going to point this out and say, hey, lady, do something more useful with your life, you know? And it makes, like, that's kind of things you were thinking about, but
Yeah.
she goes along with it. And, but that's a real question there. That's like a real thing. Like, if somebody's having that kind of life, even though it may seem meaningless to you or whatever, do you let them live that life? Do you realize that the fantasy is going to come crashing down eventually, and that you're doing them a favor by waking them up? Or, who knows?
Yeah. I think a lot of these characters are, maybe except for what, Starfire or Sunfire.
Sunfire, yeah.
Sunfire. Except for him, I think the rest of them seem pretty like willing to help, kind of the greater good, willing to put their own wants aside. So I think it was different in that sense of not too many of them are too reluctant.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what was his name? The Thunderbird or what have you?
Oh, is it?
John Prousta.
Is it? There's a Banshee. There's Banshee. There's a few characters.
Yeah, and these characters all have their own quirks. Like, Banshee.
Yeah.
He can tell he's a little older. He's been around, and it's some of the language between them with the whole boyo and the whole.
Yeah.
it's a, it's a little hokey, but
it is a little hokey. Yeah, I think it's just kind of its time.
Yeah, it's of his time. And I love how the like in chapter 2 it is, Professor X does the whole Deus Ex Machina thing and fixes their minds so they can each understand their languages. They don't have to worry about translating or whatever. And but
nice
also, you mentioned that the characters are willing to help, but also thrown in there was a ton of bickering.
Yeah.
They fought a lot amongst each other verbally,
Yeah.
And it made it I think interesting, especially for the time that this came out. It wasn't your typical, you know, I'll help you, Superman. Like.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think that's probably what set this book apart and why it's still known is because of the interpersonal dynamics between the group and the bickering and fighting that goes on. that I remember anyway. It's been a while, but I do remember a lot of tension in the group, which I think makes it more interesting. If they all get along and they're, I know the Fantastic Four are family, and that's the big thing for Fantastic Four, but that's probably why it's never really appealed to me, because you have the outside forces and you have them trying to do good, but then you also have them trying to get along. It seems more of a kind of a human experience to have a group of people. You're not always going to get along. You're not always going to be on the same page. So I think that's what made this run what it is. Part of it, anyway.
Yeah. It was very interesting. And I also like the fact that sometimes they were astonished by their own abilities. You know, they weren't seasoned yet with how they used their mutant powers, and so they actually were. I thought that was another neat point to bring you into a new series, a new era of X-Men that was going to be different from what came before. And then they mixed that new with the old when they went and rescued the old X-Men who were being used to feed the island of Krakoa, which is a mutant in and of itself.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah. That was an interesting means of keeping powerful mutants captive for that amount of time without killing them, because it was feeding off their power, which gave the time for, you have the trip back to the Xavier's mansion and so forth, that. So it was pretty cool how that all came together. Some of it, like we said, was a little hokey. Reflects his time period. But overall, I'm not looking back at this and cringing and saying, how the hell could I have liked this? I think it was pretty cool. I think it was well done.
Yeah. I'm excited to get into the Claremont stuff and just kind of see where kind of the ground floor and see how it evolves and develops.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that this issue served also as an important point to do that very thing, because it's a one and done, really, that sets up the characters, takes care of a big problem, and does it in a very strange but immediate way. Not shoving an island off into space is probably not the end of that problem. So it sets up that possibility for other stuff like that, but it also sets up this conundrum of what do you do with all of these extra characters. So you have that to play with and develop. You have, like, he really set it up for Claremont to take over and just have this huge chessboard and a bunch of toys to play with, really. What more can you ask for?
Yeah. It's fun being at the bottom floor of this and starting over again, reading it in order.
Yeah. I had a blast. I was going through it. I was just like smiling the whole way. I was just like, I was really pleased and surprised at how much I liked it. I know, and I wonder if anybody else would feel that way. I'm very curious about how our friend Mike would have felt about it, because he said he never read it before, But
yeah, he did mention it's a little bit on the mess side, but he expects it to get better. But yeah, I didn't feel myself cringing or kind of like, ooh, that's dated, or that's kind of nothing really stood out to me. That's kind of like, oh, that's not very good. It all seemed pretty solid.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Unlike like if I go back and I read the first issue of Youngblood from Image, or
Oh my goodness.
Wildcats, those
Yeah.
those are kind of cringy. Yeah.
Very cringy. Yeah. They're very cringy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This
Yeah. Those are rough.
those are rough.
Those are rough.
I'll take this
Those are rough.
any day over those.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I love that time period because I was really in the thick of it during that time. But yeah, looking back now and reading that stuff, it's like, oh, this is rough.
Yeah.
The emphasis was definitely on the artwork and not on the on the writing back then.
Yeah,
It was
absolutely.
very visual.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, I mean, that led to good and bad things later on, but
Yeah.
the image boom. But this was the start of something special, I think. And it played out to be that way anyways, and it's nice to go back and look at it and say, yeah, okay, I can already see the things that I really liked later on. I can see where that came from.
Yeah.
Because some of the more fun books that I read were, much later on in Claremont's career with the X-Men. But so I'm looking forward to getting to more of those someday.
Yeah. So for next week, do you want to say 2 issues for next week?
Sure, yeah, we can do that. That'd be, I think it's 94 and 95, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, so I know some people are, if they are borrowing it from the library, I don't want to take too long and then have them have to return it. So I think 2 issues might be manageable. What do you think?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, could be a lot to talk about, so be prepared.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think it is very dense. Not in a bad way. I think there's just a lot of storytelling going on in a very short period of time. Because we do go through a lot of story and a lot of character development, a lot of introductions, and this one issue, the giant size issue, but still.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, if you aren't already reading along with us, it's not too late. Check out Libby or Hoopla, or you can pick up the book if you would like to do that. So, until next time, Jarrod, where can people find you?
You can find me at the Fantasy Thinker YouTube channel, and you can find me on Page Chewing, and on the podcast Speculative Speculations as well.
Yes, you can also find me on Speculative Speculations and on pagechewing.com. Come and check out the blog articles, the reviews, and join our forums. Come by and say hello, and come and say hi. Let us know that you're listening. There's also a link in the description to send us a message directly. So if you'd rather do that, if you have any recommendations for us, any feedback, your thoughts on the X-Men series or any other book we talked about, I'd love to hear from you. So until next time, hope everyone's having a great week and hope you found your pick of the week. We will talk very soon.